So, on Sunday Night Football, second Sunday Night Football game of the year. Beautiful seeing the Dolphins more regularly in these primetime games. Got one more to go in the regular season. If you want to count the Friday game that we have as a primetime game, go right ahead. It's basically a glorified Thursday night game. But one more after this, Dolphins-Titans Monday Night Football. I will be there at that one. Unfortunately, not going to be at this one. Donovan tried to convince me to go to this one. I was just like, brother, I do not got the facilities for that. I do not have the cash on hand for that. But up in Philadelphia, and this is arguably the best time you could be playing the Eagles. Mentioned earlier here in the stream, beat up secondary. Jalen Hurts coming off one of his worst games as a pro. The offense is still not in sync with what the coordinator wants to do. Curtis, I'm so happy for you. I wish I could be doing the same. The offense is still not quite linked up with the offensive coordinator. It's a little murky. The stats show that this is still a very good football team, a team that's going to be in it at the end of the year, that is likely going to win their division, that, probably is going to finish just short of the 49ers for that number one seed, but they're going to play at home in the playoffs until they play the Niners in the championship game. Very good team. Gotten better in some ways. DeAndre Swift, I think, is a big upgrade on Miles Sanders. And they did lose some pieces. They lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Massive impact that he had in the secondary, especially right now if they did have him healthy. I'm sure the Eagles and Eagles fans that we've had here in the chat feel a lot better about the Eagles on Sunday. And then you look at the Miami Dolphins. The Devon Achane injury has certainly affected the team in a negative way. Had to run more plays. Our efficiency was less last week, but still got the job done. Missing that speed on the ability to get around to the outside and even run up the middle, just that extra uncertainty that you give to the defense with Devon Achane on the field has certainly affected opposing teams' defenses, and I'm sure would affect the Philadelphia Eagles in this instance. So much talent on both sides of the ball. You look at the Eagles on offense. It starts obviously with Jalen Hurts, we just got finished talking about, DeAndre Swift, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. It's so much going on there, so many different options. Dallas Goedert, who has had himself a slow start of the year, but you still know is very talented. There's so many different things you can do with those guys on the field. A.J. Brown, big body, dog. Devonta Smith, streaky, hits you down the field, gets open really good, has good hands. Dallas Goedert, really good at just utilizing space. It's a typical tight end in that nature. DeAndre Swift can do it out of the backfield, can do it in the receiving game. Defense, certainly beat up. And then you have two of the best head coaches in the league and two coaches that I would love to play for. Nick Sirianni really embraces the city of Philadelphia. That first press conference he had was kind of wonky, but I think it made Eagles fans like him even more because he goes up to that podium, that first initial press conference, and is stumbling over his words. He's choking over his words. It wasn't great. He doesn't have a future in broadcasting after he's done as a head coach like Sean McVay might. But he's about his business, and he gets results, and that's what the city of Philadelphia is all about. Do your job. Shows that he cares. He's passionate. You saw him in the stands after the Buccaneers game, high-fiving fans and stuff like that. He's a dog. The people behind him are all dogs. If you know what clip I'm talking about, you know. Just everything about this Eagles team I enjoy. And then the Dolphins, ingenious, absolute genius from a head coach who, like we were talking about earlier, can deploy so many different things. You want to hit the ball over the middle of the field, 20 yards down the field. Okay, cool. Sets up the wide receiver screen. Sets up an end around to Raheem Mostert. Sets around Devon Achane to get open in space. Okay, now you're guarding against that. Okay, boom. Tyreek Hill over the middle of the field. Have a great rest of your day. So much can go on in this Miami Dolphins offense at any given time. And both of these defenses are pretty beat up, especially in the secondary. This is going to be, I'm going to probably guess, the best game on Sunday. I don't remember the games off the top of my head. Don't ask me. Don't care. This is probably going to be the best game on Sunday. And it's so right to be on Sunday Night Football. We've had some primetime games that have not quite lived up to the belt of what we wanted them to. Last week, two very good games. Low-scoring game between the Giants and the Bills. Obviously, we wanted that to go differently. Eagles fans that are watching here, I'm sure you're actually probably happy with how that went. But it was an entertaining, low-scoring game, which we don't have a lot of those anymore. And then that Monday night game between the Cowboys and the Chargers, again, that game didn't go the way you guys wanted to, the Eagles fans. It went the way that we wanted to. So it was a yin and yang, a give and take in that one. And then you have the Dolphins and the Eagles. I don't think many people would argue, two top 5 teams in this league. The Eagles just lost. The Dolphins haven't played or haven't beaten, except for the Chargers, a true top team in this league. And the Chargers, with their coaching, Herbert's a little beat up right now. How many people, what would you say where they are? Are they a top 10 team? Probably not right now. But at their best, when it's all said and done, they're probably going to make the playoffs. But this is a massive test for the Miami Dolphins. What is Tua going to look like going against this Philadelphia Eagles front? What is he going to look like when the offensive line, who so far this season has much improved on where they looked last year, now they get to come against probably the defensive rookie of the year, assuming he's healthy. They have quite a few injury issues that they have to deal with, just like we do our own. But if Jalen Carter plays, he is one of the most disruptive players in all of football, and is going to be a massive headache for this Dolphins team. Dolphins have 2 guys that, for their position, lead the league in yards. Tua with just under 1,900 yards, 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Tyreek Hill just over 800 yards, 814 yards, 6 touchdowns. Leads A.J. Brown, who is second in the NFL in yards. Tyreek with his 814, 672 for A.J. Brown. This game is going to come down to, unfortunately, injuries are going to have a massive impact on this game, but this game is going to come down to whose quarterback is going to be given the opportunity to operate at their best ability. And that is, as an NFL fan, taking my Dolphins fan hat off, as an NFL fan, that's exactly what I want. I want to see whose quarterback is going to lead their team to victory. And that is what it's going to come to. The secondaries for both teams are not going to do a great job of stopping it, but the defensive lines for both teams is going to be a problem on both sides of the ball. We already talked about Jalen Carter on the defensive side for the Eagles. Also, a bunch of other guys on that defensive line. On the other side for the Dolphins, Christian Wilkins, Zach Zeeler are a menace up the middle, and then that right tackle position being up in the air with Lane Johnson potentially out. Even if he does play a hobbled Lane Johnson, there's a lot of questions to be asked on that side. And both of these quarterbacks, if you can apply pressure, if you can get in their face, if you can disrupt their timing, it is a little harder for them to operate their offenses. Jalen Hurts has the ability to get outside, but if you keep that contained, you get pressure in his face, you see a 3-interception game. What the Bills did against Tua to limit the big plays, put 3 safeties deep, just like the Patriots did, limit those big plays from Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Tua has that innate ability just to get the ball out of his hands quickly, but we do thrive on the big plays. And we haven't had too many drives of, 6-yard pass, 8-yard pass, 4-yard rush, okay, first down. Like those nickel and dime, haven't had a lot of double-digit play drives so far this season. So I think that is key number 1 for the Eagles is keep a cap on the top of the defense. Do not get beat deep, which if you're playing without Darius Slay, you're already playing without Maddox, probably missing Colby as well. It's going to be a difficult task. It's easier said than done. There's going to be a lot of scheme to it. They do have 2 good coordinators that they replaced the coordinators they lost last year. But it is a tall task, especially for Desai on the defense, to have that game plan, which is the correct game plan, limit the over-the-top bombs from the Dolphins. But when you're doing it with backup corners, like we saw eventually, when you have so many different things to guard against, when you have to worry about the middle of the field, when you have to worry about the screen, and then you have to worry about the deep shot, when there's so many things you have to keep your mind on, it's very difficult to do that, especially when you're going out there with backups. 2 X factors for the game on either side. For the Philadelphia Eagles, I feel like it has to be Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter, if he is able to get in the backfield, even if he doesn't sack Tua, if might be without Connor Williams again, still not practicing. See, if he's able to disrupt the middle, up right in front of Tua into his face, Tua still has the ability to get the ball out of his hands quickly. But now how this offense is playing, he would like to hold the ball for a second longer and hit Tyreek Hill just wandering wide open across the middle of the field, which he seems to do every single game, every other play, it seems like. If Jalen Carter can get up the middle, just big body guy, big, really disruptive, one of the best defensive players in all of football, certainly in line to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. If he can disrupt that the middle, and get in there on the pass rush, it's going to be very difficult for Tua. So, big X factor there. On the defensive side for the Eagles. On offense, I'd love to sit here and say Julio Jones. If I had to guess, I don't think Julio Jones is going to play. It takes a long time to learn playbooks. And then a guy his age, what is he, 34, 35, 36 years old, whatever he is, it takes a while to get into that playing shape that, when he was younger, when he was on the Falcons, I'm sure he'd pop in after missing time and just go right in and be at 100%. But when he has to learn the playbook, when he has to get accustomed, I do not expect him to play in this game, just like Jalen Ramsey's not going to play for the Dolphins. On offense for the Eagles, I'm gonna give it to DeAndre Swift. Those first few drives that we saw against the Panthers, where Chuba Hubbard and Bryce Young too, but Chuba Hubbard was getting whatever he wanted on the ground. Ended the first drive with a touchdown, and then was a big part of getting him down the field and getting Adam Thielen in the end zone. The second drive, they kept the Dolphins on the sideline. When the Dolphins offense wasn't on the field, Panthers were having a good time. Obviously, makes sense. Oh, we have the ability to score points and you don't. Your offense is over there. Our offense is right here. Obviously, that sounds like a good time. But if DeAndre Swift, who has had himself a very good year up to this point, so far this season, I believe he has a hair over 452 yards, has gotten the end zone twice. He has been a guy who can just go pick up 7 yards, especially behind that offensive line. Go pick up 7 yards. Go pick up that first down. And if Jalen Hurts, if the defensive line is getting a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts, he's a guy you can dump it off to. He's a guy you can hand the ball off to change the pace of play. I really like him as an addition to this Philadelphia Eagles roster. Over for the Miami Dolphins. X Factors, I started on defense for the Eagles, so I'm going to start on defense again. Jalen Phillips. He was limited last week, only played 30 snaps after missing a few games with his oblique injury, but he is probably going to be a full go. We looked at the practice or the injury report today, and he was a full go in practice with that injury. So him being back from that injury, feeling healthier, probably not going to be at all on a snap count this week, going against either a battered Lane Johnson or a backup right tackle. The ability to get into the backfield, disrupt Jalen Hurts, it's going to be massive. On defense for the Miami Dolphins. On offense, I gave it to the Eagles running back. I'm going to do the same. Raheem Mostert. Are you going to be able to continue your all-worldly pace? What is it, 11 total touchdowns on the season for Raheem Mostert, something like that? He's got 9 touchdowns in the rushing attack, and then he has 1. So 10 total touchdowns, already in double-digit touchdowns. 6 games into the season. He just continues to find a way into the end zone, coming off of a 3-touchdown game. Still is behind Devon Achane, despite Achane only playing 4 games this year. But 429 yards, picking up 5.7 yards a carry. Has that speed, has that breakaway speed. Not quite as good as DeAndre Swift, but he's been dangerous in the red zone. It feels like whenever you hand the ball off to him in the red zone, he just finds a way to get into the end zone or set him up on the 1-yard line and then proceed to get into the end zone. The difference in this game could be the level of teams once they get to the red zone, because again, both secondaries pretty beat up. Dolphins defense hasn't shown a lot this year, and the Eagles are going to be struggling to keep up on defense with the Dolphins. And then you look at those red zone numbers, which has been very concerning for the Philadelphia Eagles so far this season. When they get to the end zone, they only score they're 23rd in the NFL in getting touchdowns once they get to the red zone. They're 13th in red zone touchdowns, which doesn't sound very bad, but when you look at the rest of their offense, you look at where they stack up with all these other great offenses in the NFL, you expect them to do better once they get there. So they do struggle once they get to the red zone to score touchdowns, but then you look at the Miami Dolphins. They are number 1 in red zone attempts. They are number 1 in red zone touchdowns. They're number 1 in red zone touchdown percentage. The Dolphins get the job done when they get to the red zone, and they get to the red zone a lot. 5 for 5 last week in the red zone. I expect that to continue this week. I expect this to be a very good game. I expect it to be an absolute shootout, kind of similar to the Chargers game. Obviously, I hope we kind of take it away a little easier than we did in that game, but it was still a very fun game to watch. Before I give mine, Donovan, who clearly is not here today, he texted me earlier today I already knew he was going to miss. So he wanted to give me his prediction to give to you guys. He texted me, go ahead and give my prediction of the final score. 47-46 Miami. God, would that be a great game. That would be... All you got to do is win by 1 point. I'm a Dolphins fan. I'm an NFL fan. That Chargers game was amazing. I wish every game would be like that, where toe for toe, shot for shot, they're throwing haymakers. Justin Herbert is just a dog. Austin Eckler is a dog. They're getting it done. Keenan Allen has had an incredible season. Started off in week 1. Last team with the ball theoretically wins. Wasn't quite the case with the Chargers. They did have one more opportunity. Vic Fangio said, "Hey, Justin Herbert, here, taste our defensive line." So I hope that's the case. I hope Donovan's right with the 47-46. That would, what is that? 93 total points. Is Jacob's math correct? Let's hope so. Jacob is going to go with a high-scoring game as well. Again, 2 teams beat up defenses, specifically beat up secondaries. 2 teams that can pass the ball. Tua has the most passing yards in the league. Jalen Hurts, 8th most passing yards in the league. The injuries, I think, affect the Eagles a little bit more. Again, secondary. Every single game, they've had a secondary player miss. Darius Slay might miss the game. You look at other guys on their defense. Bradley Roby did not practice, still has not practiced this week. He might miss the game. Reed Blankenship with his rib injury, he has not practiced so far this week. Missing Maddox. So those injuries, as well as Devonta Smith, question whether he's going to play with his hamstring injury. It does suck that part of it does come down to injuries, but it is a real thing. I trust the Dolphins offense a little bit more. Neither defense is going to be at 100%. 2 great head coaches, but I would just give a slight nod to Mike McDaniel. Tua versus Jalen Hurts. I'm going to give it to Tua so far this season, and he is in form. 14 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, lead the league in passing. I'm going to go with a Miami Dolphins victory. I'm going to go with a score of 33-30. I don't know what the spread is, but I imagine the Eagles are favorites. So my end, 33-30. Liz, she just texted me, Eagles win it. I knew that was coming at some point. 47-46 is Donovan's score. So hey, I think it's going to be a great game, Liz. So Liz, since you just popped in, what's your score? So we've already had one Eagles fan pop in here and talk with us. Shout out to Jada. Shout out to everybody who's been in the stream here today. Shout out to Raphael. Shout out to Curtis. Curtis, I know you're having a good time. We get big runs, but we have Achane and Mostert on the field at the same time. Dude, when they're on the field at the same time, it's so difficult to guard. Like, how do you guard everybody? Like, I've always said this, about specifically like the Bengals. Like, okay, cool. Defense is walking out. Like, okay, hey, I got Jamar Chase. Okay, cool. Trust you get Jamar Chase. Okay. Who's got T. Higgins? Okay, I got T. Higgins. Okay, cool. You got T. Higgins. Okay, who has Tyler Boyd? Who has Joe Mixon? Who's paying attention to Joe Burrow? Crap. That's us now. It's the Eagles too. You know? Who's got AJ Brown? Okay, I got AJ Brown. Okay, who's got Devonta Smith? Okay, you got Devonta Smith. Who's got DeAndre Swift out of the backfield? Okay, I guess you got. Okay, who has Dallas Goedert over the middle? Crap. I guess you got him. Who's paying attention to Jalen Hurts? And then now the Dolphins. Who's got Tyreek Hill? That's obviously been the hardest decision to make so far in the NFL this season. He's been the best player in the NFL. If not MVP, certainly Offensive Player of the Year. Okay, who's got Jalen Waddle? Okay, who's got Devon Achane? Who's got Raheem Mostert? Now, Tua's not going to run the ball, but he can if he wants to. Next thing you know, Durham Smythe is just casually jogging. He just picked up 15 yards. Braxton Berrios, he casually picked up 15 yards. Over Craycraft, he's hurt. And now guess who's coming on in? Hey guys, look, it's Chase Claypool. Are you good? I don't know either. We'll see. We'll find out. It's going to be fun. Liz says Eagles win 28-21. Our resident Eagles fan who watches every single live stream. So thank you for tuning in, Liz. Raphael, 24-20. Dolphins. I like it. I like it a little bit more high scoring. But hey, Dolphins win either way. You're not going to hear any complaining out of me.